Good morning, everyone. Welcome to What's Your Brew, episode number 7. I'm your host, Talal Marik, and today we're with a special guest, the COO of CEAT Sri Lanka, Mr. Shamal Gunawardene. He's a dynamic leader and he has created innovation all within Sri Lanka. Mr. Shamal, it's a pleasure to have you with us today.
Good morning, Talal. It's a pleasure to be here and looking forward to this session. Good to meet you and good to get to know you as well.
Let's do this. So, Mr. Shamal, we all know you're not a person who is very involved with social media, but we do know what you have done in the market of Sri Lanka. How was your career like? And how was it being brewed?
How has it been brewed would be, I think right from the seed it has been brewed, and from being planted back in Candy, getting a good schooling and education, and then that seed coming out in the corporate world, it was ground and roasted in the corporate world. So that's how it came out to be. But I guess it takes years of working and the experience that gets you that perfection of becoming the right brew at the end. And I must say that I had good baristas along the way who looked after me and line managers and coached me. So that helped me as well to get to where I am today, and I'm very thankful and humble for that.
Shamal, you have worked in some of the most interesting places. You have worked in Coca-Cola, you have worked in Pizza Hut, you have worked in Cadbury, CEAT, and John Keel's part of the alignment, right? Tell us how your perspective has changed over time in working in all these dynamic business places, and what's your view on how to make a business successful?
Talal, every place has given a kind of opportunity to learn something new. If you see, the industries have been diverse from the service industry, food and beverages, FMCG, and now in the automobile industry. Every place has given you a step up to learn and to learn something new. And every place has had its challenges and demands where you need to understand what's required. And especially with the MNCs, that learning has been great. And also the requirement was to understand the local psychology and localize things as much as we can to make people understand your product and service. So each place uniquely gave you that opportunity to learn, and it's always been a university of learning at every company that you just mentioned. And the journey continues, the journey of learning is continuing, and the challenges continue every day. But you keep learning and moving forward, but some learnings and fundamentals remain in your mind for future use as well. I hope I answered your question.
That was a perfect answer, Shamal. So it leads me to my next question. During your experience of working in these different sectors, you met different people, you have been part of different perspectives, ideas, and you have faced different challenges, that goes without saying. Yet, what was some of the, how would I say it, what was a human lesson you learned as a person during these corporate days of your life?
From a human point of view, Talal, I think you need to have a human connection, and that's very important in the corporate world today. Because if you don't have a connection, if you don't get to know your team in detail, who they are, what their strengths are, what their opportunities, and what can they do better and contribute, because everybody is not the same. You'll get a different team set of people who'll have various skill sets. But something that you must remember is that you start always with a fresh sheet of paper. And I had once this learning from one of my line managers where he says that I always start somebody with 100 marks. I don't start somebody with 0 marks. Whether you add to the 100 marks or whether you start deducting the 100 marks bit by bit that goes forward is what matters. But I will start off your journey with 100 marks. And that's how you keep building it, and that's the faith you start in with people. So making that human connection, I think, is extremely important. And if you don't make a connection and don't try to understand the team you're working with, the dynamics are different, the people are different, then you might hit a rock wall if you don't get it. But playing with the people you have and the talent, you always don't get the best team. You get certain teams, but you need to harness those strengths and move them away in a fluid way towards your goal. So that's how you should get your team together from a human point of view.
I really love the concept how you said he starts everyone off with 100 marks and he says whether you want to deduct it or add to it, that's all upon you. During your time as a COO in CEAT Sri Lanka, what do you think is a myth about manufacturing that people still believe?
I thought about your question, and actually it was an interesting question because I think we need to also appreciate the fact that manufacturing is sometimes seen always as a process. You might picture manufacturing as a process line, a factory, something happening, and a product going down a conveyor belt and coming out from the other end. But again, linking to your previous question, there's a lot of human involvement in manufacturing. And you would say it's the boiler room. I mean, you played rugby, you know the forwards are known as the boiler room. So even the manufacturing is like the boiler room. There's a lot of people working hard, and there's a lot of heart and soul that goes into manufacturing. If somebody doesn't have the end consumer or the customer at heart while making that product and knows that this is going for somebody to use for some purpose, that heart and soul has to go into manufacturing. So there is a human element as well beyond all the automated manufacturing processes. And those are sometimes the unsung heroes who are at the back in manufacturing. And then you've got the frontline sales team who are also toiling it day in, day out, selling it out, whether rain, sunshine, they are selling it out in the market. Similarly, there's that back-end team who is really grilling it and making that product or service, if you may see, the product mainly, that it will fulfill those needs and deliver it. So we sometimes don't see what goes on behind the curtains, but manufacturing, there is a lot of human commitment and passion going on in manufacturing as well, beyond the process-driven picture that we would think about in manufacturing.
So was this something you realized during your experience working in various companies? Like, did you come to a certain point in life where you realized, okay, these is what manufacturing really is like?
Once you interact with your manufacturing teams, you start understanding their day-to-day work as well, because you need to know what they do as well. You meet your sales teams, you meet your cross-functional teams, but your manufacturing team also has a heart and soul going on there. You understand their challenges, what they go through, what's going on in their psychology, how sometimes they would like to connect with the end user who is making the product for. And sometimes it's very important that you connect them and meet with them. Sometimes you go to the market, you let them see as well, look who is consuming your beverage, or look who is using your tire that was made finally. And that helps them understand and give more purpose to the job the next morning, because I'm making this for somebody or somebody's use finally. So that connection is very important as well. So the more you interact with them, you'll understand how they think as well. And yes, to answer your question, by working with them, by mingling with them, that's how you try to understand their thinking and how they look at things as well.
Shamal, what do you think, or I would say, how do you think culture plays a role into the operational experience?
Culture is extremely important. I love the quote where you say that culture eats strategy for breakfast, because I mean, a culture is kind of the embodiment of the whole organization. You might have a brilliant strategic paper of short-term or long-term or a 3-year plan, but as soon as it lands in a culture that we will not support innovation or thinking or positive attitude or dynamic speed to market, then it will just gobble it up like a monster, isn't it? I mean, culture can just help a strategy grow in a business, or it can just swallow a strategy completely by whole and just swallow it up, and it will not just be there. So if you don't set the culture for innovation, culture for new thinking, culture for thinking out of the box, and an open door culture, people be able to talk, interact with each other. Culture is very important. Culture is like the foundation of a house, I would say. Whatever you build on top of that, if your culture is not positively set towards the future, towards growth momentum, towards thinking more about the future and not cribbing about what happened yesterday, then you're set to go. So it's extremely important that culture embodies organization in a positive way. Cultures can be negative, cultures can be positive. So I emphasize in that a culture has to be positive for an organization to move forward.
I love your saying where you just brought it up by someone else. You just said that culture eats strategy for breakfast. Would you say that in an office space, in an operational space, there has to be someone who has the ability to be contagious with that culture? Let's say he brings a positive culture. He has to learn how to be contagious to spread it among the right people. Would you say you're someone like that?
I would love to say it, because I believe in creating a positive vibe and a culture. Because if you don't have the vibe, you need to have that vibe of positivism in your business. If you walk into a positive culture, you'll start your day with a positive culture. And every day is not going to be a good day, there's going to be a rainy day as well. But you got to keep the positive momentum going. And that vibe and the culture that you have to set is very important for leaders. The leaders have to set positivism in their culture. And you got to lead from the front, you got to set the path, you got to ensure that your team is also charged up, pumped up, and following behind in terms of what you want to drive. Because if that energy is gone, if you lose the energy, you lose the plot. You've got to keep the energy in the game. That's what's needed.
Shamal, during complex situations, and I know you have faced enough and you're probably going to face more as you go, during such situations, what's your personal brew like? Do you normally go towards, all right, this is a situation I'm about to face, I'm going to bring up all the past data we have regarding the situation, or do you trust the people?
You would, it's a very situation based approach. You trust people who have the experience, and you got to trust your people because sometimes they know the knowledge, they've got the expertise that will take you through the challenge. And there are moments where you will get the trust and have the people to know what's right to do. Gut comes with your tacit knowledge, and if you are assured of a good tacit knowledge base which comes with experience, that knowledge will take you to gut. Gut won't happen over time. Gut will improve with the knowledge that you carry with you. But your rock solid source is always data. If you have the data, you can go into the problem, understand it, break it up, and know where to hit the nail. That's very important to have your data, because your conversations will become more factual and objective driven if you have data based answers and strategies. So it's always good. But there will be moments, like you said, where spontaneous, quick decisions have to be made. Gut will tell you what to do. People trust will tell you what to do. So it will be very situational, Talal, in how you use either of the three in terms of deciding what to do.
So it all boils down to you to choose which
Correct.
agenda you're going to go with based on the situation, because you get presented with both. And I think that leads me to my next question. During a situation of crisis, even as a COO of CEAT Sri Lanka, Shamal, you have been through burnt out, you have been through mid-level crisis, and as you were younger, you probably were facing an identity crisis, maybe no direction to go in life. There are a lot of people who are currently in that space and in that stage, and we had a conversation about this before the podcast, how you have reached out to this crowd and how you are giving them the advice they need, the message they need through LinkedIn, through videos and whatnot. So what would you say to the person that is currently in that headspace?
You mean like in that burnout stage? That will be mainly.
Mid-level crisis.
Well, everyone goes through these stages, it's human. But you got to kind of press the reset button, I think, if you're at a burnt out stage, because something I always believe is life is a choice. So many decisions that you have are choices that you can take. You can take a restock of life and decide what you want to do. There is always alternates available. It's just that sometimes we are in comfort zones that you cannot move out, and those comfort zones is what burns you out inside those comfort zones. But if you are willing to step out and look at choices, I would always encourage somebody who is going through a burnout to retake or retake his options again, take check about what his options are, and then decide, what am I going to choose from this? There usually life provides A, B, C, D options, like your question papers back in school, and you can choose which one you want to pick up from. So that's always good to get your advice. Get advice from somebody who is probably has the knowledge of advising you, and seek that advice. Have a chat with some family member, another corporate person, and say, at this stage, what should I do? And I'm sure people come up with answers. Do some reading, understand what's available there, understand what's your passion, understand what makes you wake up in the morning and come to your place of work. Because if you're not stepping out of bed happy and going in the morning, you got something wrong. And the day that happiness and energy ends, you got to take restock or decide what's going to happen next. So yes, that's what I think. I think you should press the reset button, think you should get advice and understand what are my choices remaining, how will I choose a better choice if I have to get out of this burner right now. That's it.
I really love you say that we can it is in our power that we can move out of the comfort zone. The fact that we know we're getting burnt there and it's our decision to stay there, it's upon us on facing the inevitable. And if we can choose to choose the other option, there might be a high chance we may succeed there rather than here. It's just that that's more of a unknown. It's not discomfort, it's just an unknown environment. And we know a lot of Sri Lankans, they are, how would I say, it's like the uncertainty is a repellent for them. They wouldn't like to place themselves there. But leaders like yourself and all we have seen have engaged in discovering the unknown and finding ways to make life through it. That leads me down to the final question I have, which is, when there's a person in a team, he's doing an amazing job, always on time, does the work right on time, gets the documents done right to the point, to the full stop, but he does not seem to be a good fit to the team. What is something, an action you would take or something you would tell him at that moment?
I think it's engagement, it's coaching, Talal, because you don't know the background which has led to that. You need to understand the person. Like I said back in the first question, human connection is important. You'll be able to pick up the vibes of someone not being able to settle with the team. And you need to bond with teams, because if you want to work together, you have to bond with the team. So having a one-on-one chat with the person, trying to understand and trying to get help for the person to be a more team player and work with everybody is important, because the silo mentality of having to work alone will not really help you always. You've got to work with others. That's how the success will come. So I would say have a chat with the person, understand what's going on. If they are willing to look at a very honest opinion of yourself, you can always have a 360 survey. Would you like to know what your line managers think, what your peers think, what your subordinates think? It's completely diverse feedback that you'll get from each level of how you can improve and become a better team player. If a person is humble enough to understand that learning and wants to learn, yes, I would like to know how I can improve more, please do this survey for me and help me as a coach to guide me, you are open to change. That can be solved. But if a person is not willing to change, you have to help them. There's also this famous way of looking at it. Some people are on the right bus, so they are just in the wrong seat. So you've got to move seats in the bus. Some people are on the wrong bus and they've got to get off at the next bus halt. So you've got to help them get off the bus as well. So you need to help people on what move they make to make. But as a personality, if, like I said again, if you're humble enough to learn what can be my improvements, I'd like to learn and understand, then you can find solutions to people who want to be better team players. That's definitely possible. And I've seen it happen, and I've seen people change, and I've seen people become extremely good team players who like the coaching, who take the feedback well, and that's something that can be worked upon.
I know I did say that that was going to be my final question, but I feel like you'll have a lot to say about this. Even me as a young adult, as I enter into the world of business, I realize first impressions matter. And we had this conversation before the podcast where you were telling me like, Talal, first impressions matter, how your haircut is, how you stand, how you dress. And I know for you to come to where you are today in such a good position, you had to learn that at a young age and you had to execute it well. And if there was something you could tell to the young crowd about first impressions, what would it be?
I'm glad Talal raised this question. It's something that I personally believe, I don't know, you might agree with me or not, but I think packaging is very important for any product. And how you walk in, you're a brand. Understand that you're a brand. And if you want to stand out of a brand every day, understand that if you're seated there in a chair, what would people describe you as a brand? You describe brands. You could be a Coke, it could be a CEAT, it could be a Cadbury's, it could be a Pizza Hut, the brands that I've been associated with. But who are you as a brand? That would also be important. And part of how you are building your brand DNA is also your packaging, how you walk in, how you dress, how sharp you look. You need to always understand that you know to have your presence felt. You need to walk into a room confidently, you need to speak confidently, you need to show up confidently. And that will help build your brand as well, where people will start acknowledging you, respecting you for your knowledge, start having conversations come out of that shell, talk to people, engage with people, and as much as possible, be a super absorbent of knowledge so that you don't limit yourself to gaining knowledge. Talk to people from diverse industries, Talal, which I was telling. There are so much of industry to learn for. There's so much to learn right now on podcasts, on learning platforms. Absorb the learning as much as you can. Have diverse conversations with people from multiple industries and ensure that you're gaining that knowledge for yourself. And back to the question, be sharp. Always remember, you like packaging, right? When you buy a product or a service, from your perfume bottle to whatever you buy, you know how much they work on packaging. So understand yourself also as a brand and as a packaging, and see how you can package yourself well. How you want to be seen, how you want to be positioned in the market is up to you. So that's very important, how you groom yourself and package yourself. It's very important.
And you all heard it from the business leader himself, Mr. Shamal Gunawardene, the COO of CEAT Sri Lanka. That is all for episode 7 of What's Your Brew. Stay tuned for episode 8. We'll see you all soon. Have a good day.
Thank you, Talal. Thank you so much. Thank you.